It's been a while.
Yeah,
Been a long while.
we got a little lazy. We didn't get
Yeah,
lazy.
it's
It was
holidays.
yeah,
Stuff's coming up.
yeah. You were getting a new job. I was
Yes.
Christmas shopping. I was getting
These
acclimated to my new job.
these little jerks at school got me sick already.
Children are incredibly dirty.
Yes, they are.
No, I love kids.
Especially the high schoolers. Man,
I love kids. I absolutely love kids. But every bad cold I've ever gotten in my life was from a child.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So no. But yeah, Aaron, the old school nurse now,
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun.
handed out the Adderall and
I don't actually do the meds. We have a health aide who hands out the meds. So
Even
I
better.
just kind of oversee things.
you go, yep, you're doing that right.
I've mastered the phrase, get back to class.
Listen to you. Who would have thought you would have been an authority figure?
It's scary.
Yeah.
They should not put me in charge.
Are you going to have a lot of parent-teacher meetings? Or
Um,
not parent-teacher, parent-nurse meeting?
Potentially, if I identify some needs, which
Uh,
I'm sure will happen
yeah. There's always opportunities for improvement.
for sure.
This is probably going to be our last show for the year, wouldn't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah, it's been a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
We should probably stop poking around, just get going
Yeah,
with
I
stuff.
suppose we can get going.
Yeah, let's not be lazy.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. The very next day, you gave it away.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to be back. We've had a lot of new viewers on our Facebook page, so that's been a nice shot in the arm, just really getting me going.
Things have kind of blown up a little bit. and
Yeah.
We're not sure why.
Yeah, that's because we love you guys and we appreciate it. So, of course, we're coming to you from the beautiful state of Wisconsin in a little town called Appleton, which is very near to Green Bay, where the football happens. So, as always, I'm James Dorn, and with me is the man who is a lyrical gangster, but not a murderer. The guy who always loses himself in the moment. He owns it. He never lets it go. Aaron Rohde.
I like that one. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Did you get it?
I did.
All
Yep.
right. All right. I just was worried I wasn't going to do the delivery properly.
That was perfect.
I put some time into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Am I reading that correctly? That it says episode 20?
Episode 20.
Dang.
Yeah, no, I've been keeping track. And I believe it's episode 20, not counting our update episode where...
Like the intro one.
Yeah, which we're probably due to do another one, honestly.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, so 20 episods. Man, but we'll get into that in a bit. We're going to talk about some things that we learned along the way and all that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to do some news? I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's what we always
Let's,
do.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So, Michael Nesmith of the Monkees died December 10th of heart failure.
Which is a nasty way to go.
It is. Michael Nesmith, I mean, obviously most notable for the Monkees, but he is an interesting guy. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of his many accomplishments, but if you're one of those guys or girls that likes to learn about musical history, he's a cool guy. They were even like some of the surviving members. They were doing shows even recently, so they were very dedicated to their fans.
I think they were actually in Wisconsin shortly before COVID shut down the touring scene.
I don't doubt that one bit. So, do you think that Michael Nesmith is the most notable member of his family?
He's the only one I know of.
So, his mother, Betty Nesmith Graham, actually invented something that's very notable.
What's that?
Whiteout.
That's awesome.
So, no joke, no joke.
A talented family in many different aspects.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, I don't know if she ever like got rich off of it, or if that was one of those things where she sold it to some company for a small amount of money and then they made it big. But I mean, you think about it, like it was like the nail polish type of top to it, and now there's the pens where you can draw like with tape over it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a cool invention.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Mm-mm.
So, On December 8th was the 41st anniversary of John Lennon's murder.
I did read about that because there were a lot of guys on the Second Chance page who were kind of sharing some stories and some different things on that day. So
yeah, it sounds like he was murdered relatively late in the day.
It was right outside his apartment, right?
Yeah, or a hotel or something
near.
along those lines. Mm-hmm. He had been just coming back from the recording studio. It was kind of a sad thing, you know, when I was reading a gentleman named David Bianco, who's in the Second Chance record group, did a pretty in-depth thing about that day and where John was at his life. He had reopened up communication with his son from his first wife. Mm-hmm. He had just released a new album and it was doing okay. He was even signing autographs that morning, one of which was the man who would ultimately shoot him. So it's just a really unfortunate thing.
It's very surreal to read that story and that recap of it. And David has kind of a wealth of knowledge when it comes to music too.
Just in general.
Yeah.
I love his posts, and for some reason, David, if you're listening to this and you ever want to put something together for us to post, I'd be incredibly happy and honored.
If you want to be a guest and do some interviews or something too, that would be awesome.
Yeah, especially because a big part of our thing is we always want to include new people into record collecting and get them going and get them passionate about stuff, and having somebody that welcomes them in with such a high level of knowledge and that loves to teach, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I always feel like I'm going to butcher this name. Megan Thee Stallion graduated with her bachelor's degree in health administration from Texas Southern University.
That's kind of awesome. I didn't realize she was in school.
Yeah, and
to do it in health administration is...
So one of my coworkers at my job at the urgent care where I work at, and I'm going to leave her name off just because she's kind of a private person. She's a big fan of Megan and gave me kind of the lowdown on what it was. And the short version is that I believe it was her mother or her grandmother. One of them was very sick with health problems, and they had a home aide and someone that took care of them, and she was very inspired by that. And she promised her mother, I believe it was her mother, that she was going to finish college and she was going to go out and make some positive changes in the healthcare world, which as healthcare workers, we need that.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like that's a common story for people when they get into healthcare too. I mean, I had health issues when I was a kid that made me want to be in the field. And
yeah, you never really told me. I mean, is that what got you?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I spent the majority of my childhood in and out of hospitals, and you see nurses and doctors all the time. So that was my way to kind of give back to people in the same spot.
Right, because originally you were intending on being a doctor yourself, and then you're like,
man, that's too stressful for me.
Which, speaking from someone who at this point knows you pretty well, I agree that would have been a very stressful job for you. And then me, I had a little bit of a different run. I was a retail manager and really had a strong desire to do something positive in the world and help people. And becoming a paramedic initially was my way of doing that.
Right.
So, and it was a very rewarding thing. I mean, I can confidently say I've definitely saved at least one person's life in my time, and that was my goal. Just one person. So this one we found today. The rapper Kangol Kid died at age 55. He was originally from the rap group UTFO. The article painted him to be a very iconic, legendary rapper. Admittedly, neither Aaron and I have heard of him.
We did play one of his songs shortly before starting the recording, and it sounded very old school. I don't know when it was from.
I believe it was from the 80s.
I was going to say, it sounded very Curtis Blow-like to me, and we didn't hate it.
No, absolutely. I think that there were a lot of groundwork being laid for people who would come later, like, like Naughty by Nature, Arrested Development, like those guys that really do the stuff that we really appreciate.
Right.
All right. So let's kind of do a year in review, buddy.
Yes.
It's been a good year. I mean, when we started this out, we didn't really know how many episodes we were going to do. We didn't know if anyone was ever even going to listen to us besides your parents.
Right. And now we've got at least one other one.
At least one other. We love you, Eric.
Yes. It's been, it's kind of crazy to think, we started this from literally nothing.
I had no idea what we were doing.
And
not even the slightest clue.
I wouldn't say we've hit it huge, but we've definitely got a following.
Yeah.
And it seems to be growing.
We got some people who like us, some people that don't hate the sounds of our voices. and my wife really doesn't listen to the podcast very much, and my mother doesn't, so so there's some actual fans.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not just people we know. So, Aaron, if we had to sit back and think about just podcasting in general, I know that you had done
I had done maybe 3 or 4 episodes of a different one.
Yeah, it was sports stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were kind of laying the groundwork for the operational side of things.
Right.
What did you learn?
That you never really know where it's going to go. And I think it's important to have, some sort of formula. Like we stick to the same-ish, routine just about every time. And
at least the bare bones.
It kind of gets us in the groove. And, the big thing for us is conversation. We don't want to force anything. We just present questions, present topics and ideas, and just kind of let it go from there.
Right.
I think early on we kind of tried to script it almost too much.
We did. And I think we talked about everything in depth.
Right.
To the point where the entire thing was scripted.
Right.
And it was robotic.
We've moved very far away from that. I mean, we have very minimal notes on our sheets now before we start. We have a short text conversation about things, and then we just kind of let it go, and whatever happens, happens.
When we talk about our reviews, when I tell Aaron, I'm like, yeah, I like that record you got me, but I don't give him my specific thoughts on it. I don't.
And I would say the reviews are probably the closest we get to scripted now.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because there's just... And I know you and I do very different things with our reviews, where I tend to focus more on history and where the album, the raw facts of it, whereas I think you tend to focus on composition and structure of albums. So we definitely do things very differently. But yeah, I have a lot of notes. I can't remember all of this stuff.
No.
As far as me, I would agree with you. I've always been good at content writing. I'm good with what sounds good, structure of things, plotting things out, but kind of loosening the reins on that, like you said, and letting things happen naturally. And when we were talking too much about stuff, going, hey, we need to stop.
Right.
This is a good conversation. I don't want to ruin it by not doing it while we're recording.
Right. And we've done that a number of times.
Many times. And I think probably one of my least favorite things that happened this is again going off book, least favorite things that happened while we were recording was that time we recorded most of an episode. We realized that it wasn't recording and we had to redo it.
Yeah. Which one was that?
I don't remember which one it was, but it was painful.
I think it was the first Record Store Day one that we did. And my computer screen locked and we finished recording and we're like, man, that was a really good episode. And I'm like, oh shit, we only have 15 minutes of it. So we had to go back and we did
figure out where we were.
I think we did it about 3 times.
We were both just tired and we were robotically repeating what we said earlier.
Even the same jokes. I mean, it was painful.
Yeah.
It was painful.
So operating our equipment.
We've learned. That has not happened since.
It has not happened one single time since then. I think we learned a lot about how to make the audio sound better.
Mm-hmm.
Our first couple episodes sounded terrible.
Yeah, it was rough. We started with 2 little clip-on mics that we would put on our sweatshirts and realized, man, you can hear a lot of heavy breathing.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm fat.
Things bumping up against it. So now we've got the standalone mic that sounds so much better. I've learned how to filter out audio on the computer. I mean...
Right, and then I went and got some gym padding for what people use for workouts, and we put that behind the microphone and
that's
underneath.
That's actually made a huge difference too.
Right, so we don't have a fancy setup here, but it definitely sounds better.
It looks pretty crude if you guys were to ever see it.
Right.
Maybe we'll have to do a tour.
Yeah,
little setup tour.
Be like, yo, everybody, this is the studio. It'll be 2 minutes, and it'll be very depressing.
Yes, a little dark.
Right. So what did you learn about your musical taste?
That I am literally everywhere. I think we all appreciate music, but I learned that I appreciate older music a little more than I gave myself credit for.
Right. If we roll things back to when we got started, I think I was in a spot where I was open minded, but there was plenty I didn't listen to,
Right.
plenty I wouldn't even give an opportunity to. I was still very much stuck in the past in like the 70s and rock music and things like that. You definitely opened up my eyes to like late 80s, early 90s rap and hip hop. And I can say for sure, I definitely appreciate those better than I did before.
And I can say the same about more modern rock music too. Like a guy like J.D. McPherson, I never would have picked that up if you hadn't given that to me. And that's one of my favorite albums now.
Right. And the funny part about J.D. McPherson, if the listeners haven't gotten it, he is a modern musician and he's playing currently, but his vibe is very old school.
Mm-hmm. Very so.
I would almost put him in like Elvis's rock days at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really good. There are definitely some good musicians outside of the 60s and 70s. That's definitely a big thing that I learned. So we like to keep things positive, so we're not going to do the reverse of this. What is your favorite album the other person got you? So what's your favorite album I got you over the years?
I would think that J.D. McPherson is one of them.
Yeah, you can say more than one.
I would say that's probably gotten the most playtime. The Christmas at Luke's Sex Shop is up there just because it's different. It's funnier than hell. You can listen to it when it's not feeling like Christmas. Like right now, we've got no snow on the ground because it was in the 60s earlier this week. So, I mean, I played that on my way to school one morning. And the T-Rex album, I just recently went back to a couple days, and it's good. It's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
Which was the first one that you got me.
I hope at some point you'll consider giving Electric Warrior a chance, because
I haven't seen it very much recently.
They have it at an exclusive company. I saw it recently. To me, pound for pound, that's probably his definitive album. Mm-hmm. But at the point when I gave that to you, I wanted to leave something on the table for you to explore. So I didn't want to like hit you right out the way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I necessarily do that anymore. I think now I'm like, no, I want to give him a great album.
Right.
So like I was trying to pique your interest and let you find stuff.
Even with the different albums that we've been giving each other, I think you can see we've kind of shifted a little bit too. Early on it was, what can I get the other person that they don't really know about? And it was about exposing them to our favorites. And I think
I was almost trying to I didn't have that conscious thought, but I think initially I was almost trying to shock you at times.
Right. And now we are very collaborative with it. We're like, hey, what are you feeling music wise this time? Because I kind of want to get something that is fits the same vibe. So I think we've been a little more conscientious about some of that stuff too.
Right. Like I'll be very honest with you. Like that Orville Peck record I got you, that was entirely trying to shock you to a point.
I actually played that last week too.
Right. And I think that's a good album, but you got to be in the right mood to listen to that.
Yes, you do.
Because that's a deep, like, macabre.
I actually almost picked up his other, I think it's just an EP. I don't think it's an album. But it is
an EP.
They have a couple copies of that over there, too.
I've listened to a couple, songs off of it. He's like, one of the songs is with Shania Twain. Mm-hmm. It's actually really good. I think the tone's different on it, too. Right. Like, he still has that kind of, like, well, let's put it, depressing kind of vibe to him. But, like, that song with Shania Twain is very upbeat.
Right.
And I think that's good. And I hope he's still going to do some more material. Mm-hmm. I think, truthfully, country music needs people like him.
I do too.
And Lil Nas X. Like, not a huge Lil Nas fan, but I like what he stands for.
Right.
So, I would probably say, hands down, my favorite thing that you got me was A Tribe Called Quest, People's Instinctive Travels and Paths of Rhythms.
I was going to say, it was either going to be that or it's going to be DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, no, I mean, that A Tribe Called Quest album, just freaking beginning to end, there's not a single bad moment on it. No. Like, it's just pure solid gold the entire way through. that really was a breakthrough album for you to get me, like as far as like listening. And I still will, if I'm driving around the car at times, I'll put that on when I'm driving around. And then like that Arrested Development album that I got you, like I really like that a lot. I may either buy that or I may, put it more of a rotation on my Spotify at the very least, because when that album, I don't want to take away from your review, but when that album gets going, it gets going.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And again, I'm gonna talk about it more here too. Like I told Aaron I want to listen to some Phish, but Aaron took the time to research Phish albums, and he picked this one out. And this one that he got me is quite good, and I'll go into that in a little bit.
I think my favorite thing to do when I'm looking for one is I'll play the first, 15, 20 seconds of a few songs on Spotify and be like, is this something that, James would rock with? And then I make my choices from there.
Yeah. I think largely from when I like play something, like when I'm picking something out for you, like I think overall the tone is generally positive these days.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to ever get you something that's like that Orville Peck album where it's down, because I've come to realize that you like upbeat, energetic stuff, and I know you do listen to like the dark, heavy stuff occasionally, but I don't see that side of you.
And there's a time and a place for every kind of music too.
Right, like me, like anybody who would ride around in the car with me, I listen to some very positive stuff in your car with me. When I'm alone, like I'm listening to like Metallica, like Seek and Destroy, like the heavy, like just mess stuff up, and it's loud to the point where it'd be painful for people to listen to.
That's the only way to listen to Metallica.
Yeah, if you're not listening to Metallica loud, you're not doing it right. All right, what's your favorite album you got in 2021? Or, well, let's do favorite album you got in 2021 and favorite album released in 2021.
So, favorite album I got is tricky for me. I think the Black Pumas debut album is amazing, and it's one of my favorite. It probably is my most played at this point. So I would probably put that up there. Favorite album released in 2021, I would say is the one I actually got yesterday that I've been looking for for 6 months.
You were telling me that you got something before the show, and how you've been looking for it, but you did not tell me what it was.
So it's Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon 3. I think it's the final chapter or something like that.
And Kid Cudi's a rapper.
Correct. It's one of the coolest album artworks I think I've ever seen. It's very colorful. He is kind of a very dark and ominous person when you listen to his music. He and earlier Kanye West were very similar, I would say. But I've been looking for that one since like March, and I finally just happened upon it at the store yesterday, and needless to say, I added one more to the stack at the register, which is the first time that I've ever done that.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just scrolling through my Discogs here, just kind of remind, because I bought a lot of records this year, a sickening amount. Like I'm not going to quote it just in the off chance that my wife is listening. But talking about my favorite albums that were released in 2021, I can't not mention Weezer's OK Human.
Oh shoot, I forgot that was a 2021 release.
That album was so good.
I'm gonna throw OK Human and Van Weezer both in that category.
I do love Van Weezer, and traditionally I would have been leaning more towards Van Weezer as probably like that's like the fast, energetic guitars. That's normally more what I like. But it was just something about OK Human. It was such a departure from what they had been doing that I felt like it was so good. It was artistic. It was thoughtful. It was well planned out.
Right.
And they showed us that they still have something in the tank. And I just blew my mind. I would probably say Black Keys Delta Cream. That was an album where they were playing a lot of the songs that inspired them from the Delta blues kind of area. It's not the crunchy guitars that we're used to hearing with the Black Keys. It's just a lovingly crafted album.
Is that the latest one that they just released?
It is, with Crawling King Snake on it. Okay. Tedeschi Trucks Band, Layla Revisited. It's one of my newest albums I got that from the previous episode, that I have the little nightmare of not having all 3 records in it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely worth it. It has Trey from Phish is playing with them the whole time. That whole album, I would say, is in some ways superior to the original version.
Mm-hmm.
It's live, so live stuff's not always as well polished, but I think it holds up. I think it's got a lot of energy to it, and it's a lot of fun.
I was one guy that before I got into records, I would just kind of dismiss live versions of things. I think it hits different when you put it on a record.
I think I'm probably going to be buying you some live. I'm waiting for the right ones, but I do have intentions of buying you some particular live albums that I love.
I have a couple Cheap Trick ones that are live, and Live at Budokan is probably one of their most iconic vinyl releases.
That's considered to be probably their best album ever made.
Right, and then I think I have a Live Styx album too, and then I know I have a live Leonard Skinner from my parents that it sounds great. It almost puts you right in the show, which I think is really cool.
That is good. So those are probably some of my absolute favorite ones, and then the ones that were released in 2021. I can't not mention the fact that I got my Grail over the course of the year. Butch Walker's Sycamore Meadows that I paid in the vicinity of $200 for, by far the most expensive record that I ever purchased. I played it today, actually. That was a big one for me. So Aaron, why don't you pop up your Discogs for me?
Oh boy,
we're gonna touch base on where we're at with things.
And I'm not fully updated yet. I will throw that out there.
That's fine,
but I'm close.
So first question for you: where are you at total wise?
So I just eclipsed 300 yesterday.
That's exciting. That's a good milestone.
I'm at 301 on Discogs, but I probably have 4 or 5 that I haven't logged yet. So I'm probably closer to 305, maybe even up to 310, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I have a couple that I'm considering getting rid of that I just don't listen to. They were either fillers or random from Armando or random things that I just was like, oh, that sounds like it might be good when I was buying from the auctions quite heavily. And then I got a stack of records that my wife bought me from a estate sale. Mm-hmm. None of them are big hitters. They were from an elderly gentleman's collection, and it was a lot of easy listening stuff. So I'm fairly certain there's a fair amount of them that I'm probably not gonna keep, but I'm gonna give them a chance, and I'll probably sell them and get something I'm interested in. At present, my total Discogs is 516. I think at the beginning of the year, I want to say I was in the 250 range.
I think so, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, so that's a sickening amount of records
that
I bought. And I got rid of like 10 or 15 of them not that long ago.
I think my parents gave me upwards of 100.
I feel like when you started, you were around 100, between 120 and 150.
Right, yeah.
So still,
I've doubled in size in a year.
Yeah. So where do you think you'll be at the end of 2022? And I want to tell you, assuming that we will continue doing this the entire year, we're going to revisit this and we're going to say what your predictions were.
I'm only assuming I'm going to be right around the 400.
I think I'll probably slow down a little bit than from where I was. I don't think I'm going to add like another 250.
I'd be impressed if you did, though.
Yeah, that'd be a little much. I think I'll probably break 600.
Yeah.
I don't think...
Which I think is fair.
My high side, absolute high, I think I'll hit like 650. I think
both of us have done really well at slowing down on the auctions.
I was real bad. Like, let's talk about addiction for a minute here.
A lot of the time, I think we were just buying to say we bought something during the auction.
Well, I love those auctions, and I love Armando, and I don't want to sound like I'm throwing shade on him or anything, but you kind of get into this cycle. So, like, you're on the auction, he throws something up that you love, that you're happy about, you're excited about, you buy it, you get a halfway decent price on it, then you're like, okay, I got to add another $5 to $6 for shipping. Now I didn't get such a good deal,
right? And
now I got to buy more stuff to justify it. So then you find yourself buying things that you were just kind of about that you wouldn't normally buy, and that's why I got a bunch of records I don't need.
Right.
So I think
I did the same thing.
Right. So
and only recently did I start thinking, oh wait, I still have to pay shipping on here. Right. So now your $20 brand new record turns into a $25 or $26 brand new record, and it's like, oh, I got to make this worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
And there were a couple times where I bought quite a few singles from an auction, and they were $4, $5, $6 at a pop, which that doesn't matter, but then you can't just buy one of those and then double the price because of shipping.
Right. So you said, getting off subject for a second, you were really enjoying buying singles?
Yeah, I'm much more open to it.
Why don't you explain what we mean by singles for someone?
Singles, and the most recent one I got, I actually realized is a promo copy yesterday.
That's exciting.
Actually really cool. But when you think of, those hit radio songs off of an album, a lot of times they'll take that, they'll throw a couple different versions of it on two sides of a record and sell it as a single. So a lot of times you'll get the
sometimes
regular
they're
version,
like a 12-inch though.
Right, and most of the ones that I have are 12-inch singles. So you'll get the regular version, the album version, you'll get like the instrumental typically. If it's a hip-hop song, they usually throw a clean version on there as well, and then like a club edition or a dance edition or something
but admittedly, it's probably like one song, one track you're actually going to listen to.
Right.
I think I give you one of your first singles. It was...
You did.
It was Jimmy Cliff, was it?
Jimmy Cliff, yep.
And I listened to it, and I'm like, Aaron would really like this.
And I do. It's awesome.
And I'm like, I liked it a lot, but I'm like, I felt it was more appropriate for your collection, and it was more what you would appreciate.
So I actually have been in my crates that I have, which I'm looking to upgrade this holiday season. I have a separate section for all my singles, which is growing faster than my regular collection is at this point.
So how do you organize your record?
Alphabetized by artist's first name,
okay.
I think.
So let me ask you a question. So if you get to an artist, okay, and Discogs considers a repress to be released in, say, 2021, but the album was actually...
I go based off of when the album was released.
As do
initially.
Which can be confusing with Discogs, because like if I load my Discogs up, it'll say like here's a good example, not the best example, but a good example, that Regimental Sergeant Zippo album that Elton John released for Record Store Day, which was a scrapped version of his original album. I really went back and forth on that, about where to put that, because technically it was an album from like the 60s or 70s, whatever. I ultimately, because it had never been released, made it his newest album. Mm-hmm. But other bands, like if it's a 70s album, my phone says 2013 on it, it goes in the 70s. Right. I had a really hard time with the White Stripes, organizing them in there, because they had a lot of represses of it.
Right.
So like I have to go through and like research where to put it.
Well, and I think I did that with the Styx too. All of my Styx records, except for one of them, are OG copies, and I bought Grand Illusion as a repress. But I don't consider that a 2021 or 2020 release either.
No, nor would I. So in the future, I would really love if Discogs would account for that and give us the option, like maybe a separate column where it's press year versus initial album release.
Right.
Because I just don't like that. Mm-mm. All right. So any upgrades you're considering for the year of 2022 for your setup?
I think my big one is record storage. Because right now I still have the wooden crates. I would like to get some sort of, whether it be bookshelf or calyx shelf, to have those.
I think it'd be good too with your dog, because your dog's low to the ground.
Yeah. Looking at potentially getting new speakers and potentially a new needle cartridge as well.
Yeah, so I talked to one of my friends about needles, and he's essentially said to me, he goes, moderate to heavy play, you should be able to get about 2 years off your needle. Mm-hmm. So if you do it this year, it's about right.
Right.
So
I recently put up rope lights around the desk, which made it so much cooler. I'm so glad I got those.
We've talked in the past too about we love our Orbit Plus turntables. However, the belts get rather loose. Mm-hmm. And I had told Aaron, I said I keep one in the freezer just to keep for the belt, because like when you switch between 45s and 33.5s, you can stretch the belt out. So I kind of tried some new things. So the freezer trick frequently works, but ultimately it does warm up. So what I tried the other day was I took a hairdryer to one of them, mm-hmm. and that's been holding. So that's been keeping that belt real stiff, mm-hmm. and I've been happy with that choice. Yeah. So I wanted to let you know about that in case. So for me, maybe by the end of the year, I would consider getting a new needle, but the needle that I have, I got partway through the year, I think, so I don't think I need to necessarily do that. My speakers have been doing just fine. However, when the volume gets up to a certain point, it makes my dust jacket vibrate because my speakers are so close. So there are some stabilizers that you can get to put underneath your speakers to help with vibration. Kind of dampens them. It's got like springs and stuff in it. Otherwise, there's these stands that you can get that were originally designed for musicians, for their amplifiers, for that same reason. So I may get those, or I may get some like pillar stands for my speakers so they're completely off the table. Other than that, I feel like I'm pretty happy with my setup overall. It's not like the most flashy high-end one. I may also get that device that allows me to plug in headphones.
Yeah, I think that would be big for you.
Yeah.
The other thing I think I really need to upgrade is my slip mat, because I still have the standard one that comes with the U-turn table, and I put the acrylic slip mat on my Christmas list. So if I don't get that from somebody, I'll probably be purchasing one in the near future.
Yeah, and if anyone's thinking about getting an acrylic slip mat, they're about $20. It's an easy upgrade. And then I did some research too. There are a fair amount of people that prefer record clamps over record weights. I have a record weight, so at some point I
have neither.
I may get a clamp. I think from what I hear, it holds things a little more stable. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you want to move on to reviews?
Yeah.
All right. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first.
All right. So what gem of a record did I get you, sir?
For this time, you got me Arrested Development's 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of ...
That was a recommendation from my wife's cousin. He's the one that planted that seed in my head a couple months.
It's a music on vinyl pressing, which was my first music on vinyl experience.
So I think in the future we're going to talk about some of the high-end pressings and what makes them special. The music on vinyl is a European high-end pressing.
Yep. So this album was released in March 1992, 2 years before I was born. It's their debut album, and it's credited with helping to popularize what is called the Southern hip-hop genre.
Do you think that's maybe an origin of where Nelly kind of came out of?
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Nelly, I would maybe put Travis Scott in that same wavelength too, because he's from Houston. So places like that. It's interesting that this album kind of was released in the beginnings and the heyday of the gangster rap area too. It's the same same year that Dr. Dre's The Chronic came out. A couple years after NWA's Straight Outta Compton was released.
So these guys are doing something real different.
Yeah, it's two very, very different ends of the spectrum. So a little fun fact about this album. The title is actually how long it took the group to get a record deal after they formed.
I didn't know
that's why they went with that specific timeline. They were the first rap artists to win the Grammy for Best New Artist in 1993. And the original two members actually met at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. This is a cool little local thing for us.
I actually did not know that either.
Yeah.
Look at you bringing the hot music facts.
I thought that was very, very interesting, very cool. And I can kind of see the Milwaukee vibe from these guys, too, when I listen to it. So this is my first music on vinyl pressing, like I said. And I could actually notice right away that the grooves on this record are more pronounced than they are on, like, a regular pressing that we usually get.
I'm gonna be straight. I'd rebuy my whole collection of music on vinyl if they had it, my entire collection.
Yeah. And when you think different pressings, you probably wouldn't think that it would make that big of a difference on a hip-hop album, but you can notice a difference on this one, which I thought was really cool too. So this is one that I've actually kind of dabbled in a little bit before, but I never gave it a full listen. It starts with, so when you listen to this album on Spotify, the first 5 seconds are actually static, like you are dropping the needle and getting it going.
That's a nice touch.
It is. It starts with a DJ scratching and kind of showing his skills, which reminds me of DJ Jazzy Jeff, that we all know and love. The first two songs blended together. It was basically like this DJ was transitioning from one to the other. It was basically a mix session for those first two tracks, and then the third one gives you a little bit of a reggae feel. It's a very positive, upbeat feel to the album, which isn't super common with hip hop of, that age or for hip hop now. It is very, very refreshing. One thing that I like is this group clearly isn't focusing solely on the lyric. They put a lot of thought into the instrumentals, the different samples, and they let each member show off their different skill set. Speaking of samples, they use a very wide variety of samples from different genres. Lots of old school hip hop vibes. And then you get to the song Give a Man a Fish, and it's got guitar sounds that remind me of the song Funky Town. The lyrical delivery here also reminds me of the Sugar Hill Gang. It was just very fun. It's like you're in the 70s, like you're at Soul Train.
Fun fact, I actually looked at getting you some Sugar Hill.
Oh, I love Sugar Hill. So let's get down to it. Would I have bought this for myself? Honestly, probably not, just because I didn't know this group very well. I didn't really know they existed until a couple months ago. But it's definitely staying in my collection. It's already got 3-4 plays out of it, and will continue to get more in the future. It's a very upbeat hip hop album. That's great to listen to at any time.
Nice. So, I may buy it. Heck, I may even buy it today.
Yeah. They got another music on vinyl pressing over there. You might have to pull the trigger.
My wife's
sorry, Chelsea.
My wife's tearing apart her bathroom in the basement right now, so I'm not eager to get home.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, she just texted me a minute ago. She's on her way to go get a new toilet.
Oh boy.
My wife's incredibly handy. Me, not so much. So do you want to present me with, or how do you want to do it? You want me to give you your next one? I'll give you your next one.
Okay.
All right. So, Aaron,
I gotta find where I put okay.
Admittedly, what have I been giving you lately?
You've been throwing me softballs.
Yeah, I've been giving you rap, hip hop, stuff that you really like.
Yep.
So, what's my go-to genre?
70s rock.
70s rock music, absolutely. So, when I got you, I like to get you big time albums occasionally. Probably when you talk about classic albums, I think probably the most notable classic album I got you was probably Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
And that is an iconic album. That is an album that is masterful. Okay. So this next record that I got you is in the caliber of that. Okay. So it has been said about this album that when this album was released, this elevated this band from being a rock band to being rock gods.
I'm trying to think of what it would be.
Yeah. This was next level when this came out. They ceased being an average band at this point.
I know we've been talking a lot about AC/DC. Is this them?
It's not AC/DC.
Okay, well that was my only guess.
All right, so I got you, and I'll let you.
We've been talking about this guy a lot too. So Led Zeppelin 4. I admittedly know little to nothing about Led Zeppelin. And so they had a huge selection of Zeppelin over there yesterday.
They did, and that's why I saw it. And I've been sitting on this album. I didn't buy it recently. I was going to get you another softball, but it got delayed in shipping, which you know about. I'll just tell you, it was Daft Punk. But I'm like, no, it's time. We're going to go on a big note. We're going to end the year with a bang. And I'll tell you, this album, don't put this on when you need to be quiet. You will lose the magic. This album is meant to be played incredibly loud.
Yep.
So please do that. You want to read off maybe a couple songs and do our normal description of the front?
So it's got like a old school marble wall on it with a picture of an older gentleman with a cane and a bundle of sticks tied to his back. This is their fourth album on 180 gram vinyl, including Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, and Rock and Roll. It actually doesn't have a track list on the back, which I think is unique.
That's baller. That's a big time play.
Yeah.
That's like you don't need to know what's on this album. It's Led Zeppelin.
It's a German press, and from what I've heard, European pressings are a little better sometimes.
I would agree.
And on the back side, it's got a reflective sticker of a naked man with wings.
That's Led Zeppelin logo,
which is actually really cool.
So I that was actually when I started collecting, and I wanted to fill in some of my 70s stuff. This is one of the first albums. This is one of the first albums I bought.
Yeah.
So
it is a gatefold as well, so I'm assuming the tracks list is on the inside.
Yeah, I believe so. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
hope
looking
you
forward to that one.
I hope you appreciate that album.
Absolutely.
That would probably be in the top 5 of most rock people's albums.
I was gonna say that is. I mean, when people think Zeppelin, that's probably the one that they think of.
That's every nearly every list I ever saw. That's considered to be their best album.
Right.
So no pulling punches with that one. All right, so let's go into my review. So this one was steered a little bit by me. So this was like we talked about. Aaron's like, hey, what are you feeling? What are you into? And I said, you know what? I had gotten Grateful Dead not that long ago, and Grateful Dead was a band that I had steered away from just because when I was in high school, it seemed like a lot of pothead hippies were into it. And I was just like, everyone was like, oh, the Dead. And I'm like, I couldn't get into it. I didn't even try. So recently I got the Dead, and I'm like, man, this is really good. So then I kind of circled things back, and I know Phish fans were pretty rabid people. Like, they were hardcore. They're diehard, never rude, never disrespectful, but they were really into their band. So I told Aaron, I said, give me some Phish. All right. I didn't know what to expect. Admittedly, I think I listened to their album Farmhouse once, I think, on Spotify, but that was about it. So Aaron took it upon himself to do some research, and what he selected for me was their album Joy, which was initially released on September 8th of 2009. Not only did Aaron pick me this copy up, he didn't go to the exclusive company. He ordered this directly off of their website.
It's the only place I could find it.
Right. So this album had big box sets and all kinds of stuff, but he got me this cool one, and it's kind of a red and kind of bluish teal marble color, and visually is probably one of the coolest looking vinyl colors that I had. The front of it, I did some research online, and I couldn't really tell what it was supposed to be. It has a nebulous look to it. I'm describing it because we didn't get a chance to describe it last time, but it looks like a nebula, but I think the nebula is made out of fish eyes.
I think so.
Right. So it's kind of weird.
It's out there.
But it's cool. So this was published on Jump Records, which is the band's own label. It is their 12th studio album, and it was their first since their hiatus from the year 2004 to 2008. As it goes, my understanding was when they got back together, they did some tours. They didn't get right in the studio. They were kind of get back in the routine. They reunited with their producer, Steve Lillywhite. If you don't know Steve, he is a pretty big-time producer. He produced for so many other bands, including these, but not limited to the Talking Heads, the U2, Rolling Stones, Dave Matthews, Counting Crow, and just so many more. He had worked with the band previously on their album in 1996 called Billy Breathes, which I think you said was one of their more valuable records when you were researching.
Yeah, that one was going for upwards of like $200 or $300 when I was looking at it.
Right. So that's a well-loved album. Mm-hmm. This album is considered to be one of their best by their hardcore fans. All 10 of the songs were performed during the band's 2009 summer tour and were generally well received except one. The song Time Turns Elastic has been criticized as they're overly composed, and many fans don't feel it translates well to the stage. Many fans also feel the numerous ballads on this album kind of bring down the vibe on stage. I'm not, again, a hardcore Phish fan. Mm-hmm. So, right. But what I hear is their end-all be-all are their live shows. Mm-hmm. They're a jam band. I'm talking like 30-minute guitar solos and stuff like that. All right, so what did I think? The cover makes me feel happy just looking at it. I really loved like space and science fiction and stuff like that when I was a kid. So the Fish Eye Nebula really spoke well to me. As I said, this was a copy from Aaron got me from their website. Awesome. Probably one of my favorite visually that I love to see. So let's break down the album. So track number 1, Backwards Down the Line. Keeps a positive train with an opening happy words. Happy, oh my friend. I love that. I was met with some strong Grateful Dead feelings with seamless melding of guitars, drums, keyboard, just some really beautiful harmonies. The positive energy just kind of hit me in the face. I guess what you would call the guitar solo in the song, but it never really stops, is amazing. And since hearing it on my first playthrough, I can really understand why this band is called a jam band. Track number 2, Stealing Time from the Faulty Plan. This was a little bit more light. It had kind of a psychedelic vibe. The guitars were sharp, well played, and they were kind of coming in and cutting out at times. It was definitely a different feel from the first song. We talk about having a blank space in the mind in the song, which really kind of hit home the psychedelic vibe for me. If you like classic rock in the sense of like Pink Floyd, you would love the guitar work on this song. It reminded me a lot of Dark Side of the Moon at times. Track number 3, Joy. This is the title track. It slows things down. It's very encouraging. It talks about coming out from the darkness and how much you mean to the singer. It's soft, it's sweet, but deals with some heavy concepts about growing up. In the end, it spends a lot of time encouraging you to get out of the gloom. It's easy to imagine the crowd singing this song at a show, and I could see this translating well. Track number 6, Kill Devil Falls. It had a slight blues vibe to it, I would say. It was a good change of pace and a good tempo. Definitely felt different. There's a lot of crash cymbals. The piano was really probably a masterful touch on this song. Track number 9. This is the song that we talked about earlier that most fans don't like. Time Turns Elastic. There's a lot going on initially with the song. It's extremely overwhelming and kind of a mess of piano. Initially, this all washes the song out. Early on, we're talking about a submarine, but I don't know why. After the first minute or so, the song gets on track. That sounds like the rest of the album. Mind you, this song is 13 minutes and 30 seconds long. About halfway through, it's talking about what I said earlier. It almost feels like several different songs put together, and it doesn't always work. Like, I feel like you could have probably just cut off a good chunk of the beginning of the song, and it would have been a great song on its own. So there were some opportunities there. Track number 10, 20 years later, it ends very positive. Not the best song on the album, but it's positive. It's aware, very self-aware of itself. The piano is heavy. No great guitar work. It feels like tacked on at the end in some ways. To me, it seemed like the song that you would have play at the end of a movie.
See, it's got to be hard to write a 13.5-minute song that isn't the end of an album.
Well, that's not the 13-minute song.
No, but the one before it.
Right. I would have probably just completely redid track number 9 if this was me, and would have focused more on quality. Mm-hmm. But like I said, this track number 10, though, it wasn't bad. It was just like, I felt like the credits were rolling and I didn't feel obligated to stay and listen to it. So, would I have bought this for myself? Yeah, I mean, probably. I don't know if this would have been the first one that I would have picked just because I didn't know anything about Phish, but I was obviously interested in Phish because I told Aaron to get me some Phish.
Right.
I think it's a great album. Some of the songs weren't necessarily bad. They just felt out of place. This will definitely make it into my moderate rotation. I did like it enough to buy another Phish album, The Story of the Ghost, which some people, different groups of people, feel like it's one of their better albums as well. But I will say Phish albums are a little expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I don't understand why.
Did you get that one from the store?
I did. I bought it from the store, and it's one is red and one is black. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Phish like rocked my world to the point where they changed what I knew about music. Right. But it's good, and I'm happy. I have it. So that's it. That's my review in a nutshell.
All right. So for this one, I have 2 different potential choices for you.
All right.
I'm gonna show you.
Get that crinkle bag open.
I know you said you have been feeling some chill music lately.
Right.
So I've got 2. One is probably more chill than the other. One is Mumford & Sons, which actually they just released this for the first time on vinyl.
I actually had looked at this several times at the store and had not pulled the trigger on it. Mumford & Sons, Sigh No More. I don't know if I've listened to this or not on Spotify, but this was definitely something because they had a big display on the wall.
Yep. And that originally released in 2009, I believe.
Which, if I remember correctly, that was when they were really popular.
I think that's their debut album, actually.
Oh.
I could be wrong. But
We'll find out when I do my review.
The other one is one that we've kind of talked about on Spotify recently. And I didn't know they were releasing it on vinyl until I was at the store. And it's Green Day's BBC Sessions.
Oh!
On quote unquote milky clear vinyl.
Oh,
And this is one that I will probably go back and buy for myself too.
You're killing me, right?
So ultimately,
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
ultimately, they're both yours. You just have to pick.
You've given me choices in the past before. This is probably the hardest choice that you've given me.
That one was kind of on a whim too. That was another one that was in the new release section, and I just happened to flip through it, and it was there.
Because like this Green Day one, I actually went there the other day looking for it.
Yeah.
And they, I don't know if it's from the same stuff, but they had released special versions of some of their BBC stuff only that you can get from their coffee on their site.
Right.
So I beyond a shadow of a doubt want this album, but this one's more what I've been feeling lately. I don't want the magic of I don't want to underplay how hard of a choice you just gave me.
Right. The Green Day is one that I probably should have bought 2 copies of while I was there.
Just because I really have spent an awful lot of time wanting this, like, and I know I'm going to take the Green Day, and let me tell you why. Because I was on the verge of buying this. I haven't listened to it. It's a retail variant color. Mm-hmm. Green Day's been a pain in the butt to get sometimes. Yes. So I feel like there's a chance I may not see this again if I don't take this one. That being said, please don't get rid of this Mumford & Sons.
Oh, they're both
because I do want to listen to that Mumford & Sons. I'm just, my God, I'm more excited about this at the moment.
And I kind of thought that would be the case, but I wanted to present the option.
And I appreciate that. So you knocked me over, buddy.
I figured that one could also double as a Christmas gift too.
Right, which is what I was trying to do with that Daft Punk for you. I was trying to get you a good quality, and I will get you that Daft Punk at some point if they actually ever send it out. So, fun fact, eBay can really suck when it comes to ordering vinyl sometimes.
It'll come in due time.
It'll come.
We hope.
So that's about it that we got for the show today. So, just a reminder, we do have a Facebook page, One More Record Podcast. It's been getting a little bit of action lately. If you like memes, you like news, please follow us on there. We also have a Twitter page. I'll be straight with you. We don't use the Twitter page as much. We do have a Gmail account if you want to reach out to us directly. It's One More Record Podcast. We'd love to hear what you want to listen to, what you're feeling, what you like about the show, what you don't like, suggestions, any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to, at rock bottom in the coming year, I think it's very reasonable that we're going to try to get a full 24 episodes out next year. Mm-hmm. With Aaron having a Monday through Friday kind of job, I think we can be a little bit more consistent with our show schedule.
Definitely.
We're not changing jobs as much. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe before our next episode, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna pick some days and we're gonna try to be consistent on that. Yeah.
Who knows? You may see us on video at some point too.
Right. And I would like to maybe do some videos on like some live streams off of our Facebook page so you can see what we're listening to and mm-hmm. stuff. It's just really unfortunate we can't like do listening parties because of legal rights with music and things like that. Yeah. So, you got any hopes for the new year, buddy? With as far as the show goes,
I think we just keep plugging away and see where it goes.
Yeah, maybe.
And we've been picked up some traction lately, and hope to continue to carry that into next year.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can do some more live stuff as COVID restrictions loosen up, and maybe we can do some live streams when we go shopping for records.
I think we would both like to hit a record convention too, if we can find one in the area. Yeah,
I think that would be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We really appreciate all of you listening to us and coming back time and time again. If you got time, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Any stream that you can do really helps us. We're at the point where we are making a tiny bit of money off of it. Right now, we're just hoping to recoup some of the cost of what we spend to invest in doing this. Mm-hmm. We just want to break even at this point. So, we're even at the point where we got some people trying to recruit us for their groups.
Yeah, right.
But we're not saying that we're not going to sign on with another group at some point. We're just going to be picky about it.
Right. for sure.
We
We
wanna-
gotta make sure it's right for both sides.
Right. Absolutely. So, and I'll toss it over to Aaron.
Yeah, with that, you guys have a safe and happy holiday season. Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for being here, listening to us, even though, sometimes we may be sick and sound like crap, but we're here for it.
The bumps and everything.
Yeah,
But most importantly, just remember,
there's always more vinyl.
there's always more vinyl.